What if I told you that the end you're grieving over wasn't really the end? What if the ache you still carry inside you isn't a flaw or a weakness, but rather a sacred nudge, a sign that something is still unfolding in your life? You loved deeply. You prayed with sincerity. You cried without shame. And even though things fell apart, your heart never truly released that connection. Why? Because some separations are not rejections. They're pauses, divine pauses. In this video, let's uncover the spiritual meaning behind a connection that keeps returning to your heart. Because maybe, just maybe, this isn't nostalgia. Maybe this is guidance. When a name refuses to leave your heart, there are names you try to erase, but they keep showing up. Not on your phone screen, but in the silence between your thoughts. During prayer, in dreams, while scrolling mindlessly. You try to tell yourself you've moved on. You've said it's over, even thanked Allah for it. But deep down, something still lingers. And what if that something isn't weakness? What if that quiet heartbeat is not about holding on to the past, but rather preparing for a new version of something sacred? Not what was, but what was meant to be. You see, your heart isn't malfunctioning. It's remembering something your mind has tried to forget. Because sometimes, the soul holds on to a mission it hasn't completed. A mission that's not about love in the worldly sense, but a bond Allah created for a reason. It's not longing. It's not obsession. It's quiet peace. A kind of recognition. You've grown. You're not who you were when you were with them. You're not naive, not desperate, not lost. And yet, this name remains not as a chain to the past, but as a signpost for the future. And when you ask Allah in solitude, is this from you, or is this just me clinging to what's gone? You're met with silence, but it's not empty. It's a silence that calms you. A silence that says, not yet doesn't mean never. The purpose of the pause may be, the breakup was never punishment. Maybe it was preparation. Sometimes, Allah separates two people not to punish them, but to polish them, to purify them, so that they meet again, not as broken halves, but as whole hearts ready to serve a higher purpose. You weren't torn apart. You were paused, so your souls could realign. And if that name still brings you peace, not pain, not obsession, then maybe it's not a sign to forget. Maybe it's a divine reminder to prepare. There are some connections that don't thrive on daily contact or long conversations. They exist in duas whispered quietly, names mentioned only in prostration, and moments where a random reminder triggers a sudden, inexplicable calm. You changed. They changed. Maybe they're not the same person anymore. Maybe neither are you. And maybe that was the whole point. When destiny delays, not denies. Do you remember that moment? No betrayal, no lies, just emotional distance and misalignment. Misunderstood silences, incomplete words. Pain not from hate, but from love that didn't know how to express itself. So you let go, not because there was no love, but because you didn't know how to carry it. She cried in sujud. He buried the ache. Both went separate ways, convinced it was over. But was it? Because when two hearts sincerely call on Allah, using each other's names in their prayers, those duas don't go unnoticed. Months passed, life happened, but every time one of them fell to their knees in prayer, the other's name slipped from their lips again, because you don't forget a soul that touched yours. With sincerity, you may forget voices, places, and gestures, but the soul remembers. And when you try to move on, try to erase, but still feel peace when you remember them, it's not stubbornness. It's recognition, the quiet healing behind the scenes. What felt like a breakup was actually a spiritual surgery. Allah didn't just separate you. He started rebuilding both of you. She learned to love herself without seeking validation, to heal wounds she never addressed, to prioritize her creator over her cravings. He learned that real manhood is not about detachment, but responsibility for emotions, intentions, and hearts entrusted to him. They grew in silence, grew in solitude, and when they least expected it, a word, a dream, a moment, a subtle sign, reappeared, not a repeat of the past, but a glimpse of something rewritten by heaven, not to start where they left off, but to begin where they were always meant to. You still cry because your soul still knows. You laugh with friends. You scroll, you sleep, but some nights a name still burns gently inside your chest, not like a fire, but like an ember, not a wound, but a signal. You've tried everything to forget. You've begged Allah to remove the name, but it won't leave, not as a burden, but as a presence, as a calm certainty that something has not ended. You thought you were clinging to the past, but maybe you were holding on to a future your heart still sees, even in the dark dot. Is it just you? Or is it from Allah? Maybe you've asked yourself this. Is this a sign? Or just me being unable to let go? You feel embarrassed, confused. You want to be strong, but deep down, something keeps whispering. And the more you pray sincerely, the more their name returns, not as an obsession, but as a gentle calm, not as a distraction, but as a compass. Ask yourself, since the separation, have you grown closer to Allah? Did your pain deepen your prayers? Did the silence make your conversations with Allah more real? If so, maybe this bond isn't a test to resist, but a tool to elevate dot. And maybe that's why, even after the distance, your heart still blesses them in secret. That's not ego. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when love becomes a dua. Some bonds are sacred. There are people you can forget. And then there are those whose souls have intertwined with yours so quietly, so divinely, that forgetting is not an option. You don't see them. You don't talk. But they show up in dreams, in duas, in coincidences that feel too precise to ignore. Their name still brings calm. Their memory still makes you better. It's not an illusion. It's an echo of a bond that was written. Beyond time when the wind returns, it doesn't always wreck you've known pain, storms, loss. But the same wind that once broke you, when Allah commands it, can return as a breeze of hope. It doesn't bring back the old pain. It brings the future you didn't know how to wait for. A name you once cried for might return not as a test, but as a trust. Not because you begged for it, but because Allah wrote it for a moment. You are finally ready. So like now? Now you don't chase. You don't rush. You don't beg. You surrender. Because now you know. What is written will come not through desperation, but through transformation. If it's meant, it will come back, not in chaos, not in confusion, but in clarity, in calm, in divine timing. So ask yourself, this a call to hold on, or is this a call to prepare? Maybe both. And if while watching this, someone came to mind, if you felt at peace rather than pain, if your heart beat differently, then don't dismiss it. Allah doesn't always speak in thunder. Sometimes He whispers in familiar names. Conclusion. This time, it's different. So, if the name still returns, if the feeling never faded, if the dreams continue, don't be so quick to label it as weakness. Maybe this isn't an echo from the past. Maybe this is a whisper of the future. And when it returns not as before, but better, purified, blessed, you'll understand. Allah didn't reject it. He refined it. And when two hearts are sincere, when they both place Allah at the center, there is no distance, no silence, no season that can prevent what is meant from finding its way. You didn't imagine this. You prayed for this. And in the quiet, Allah was already working. If this video resonated with you, share it. Someone else might be waiting for the same kind of sign. And if your heart feels something stirring again, don't silence it. Instead, let it guide you not back, but forward to what Allah has always intended for you.